Hello and welcome to another edition of the Business Owner Elevation Book Club, and boy do we have another amazing book for you to review today. But before we get into the book review, we are leaving the Antarctic and we are heading to India today. So let's warm up ourselves and get a bit of the Indian sunshine, because we're not going to the Himalayas, we're going to keep it down south. So anyway, I'm not quite sure what we can put behind me, but put something nice. I don't know, maybe the Taj Mahal. So Adam behind the camera, make it happen. Anyway, so let's get into today's book review. If you're new to the show, each week we review a groundbreaking book that focuses on either sales, marketing, or personal development to help you in your business to grow. And today's book is a groundbreaking book, especially for me, as I said. It is by Stephen Covey. It's The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. It's a book that I think I read this book probably about 6 years ago. I can't actually remember. I know it's a bit older because some of the pages are coming out and it's been well worn, especially when I went through it. And even at the time, I remember going through it, doing my notes, and the book was just about handling the amount of reading and editing and highlighting as I was going through. And actually, I think the glue on the seams have just started to give up. But anyway, it's a book that you need to read. And I'm going to explain why. And not just because of my why. 15 million copies sold. And that was about, like I said, about 6. It could be longer, I don't know, maybe 6 years ago. We'll keep it at 6. So anyway, powerful lessons in personal change. So I'd heard about this book. It was recommended by some friends, maybe some business coaches, I cannot remember, but some people whose recommendation I took on board. And so I got the book and I thought, right, let's get into it. Just before we kick off, Stephen Covey he's a man that is testified by some real greats: Brian Tracy, Tom Peters, Ken Blanchard, PhD. There's also Tony Robbins. And so unfortunately, Stephen Covey passed away a few years ago. But you can see during his lifetime, a lot of people, not only did they add testimony, but he was highly respected. Hence, producing the 7 habits of highly effective people. So let's go into the chapter. Let's have a look. So part 1 looks at paradigms and principles. He goes to inside out, the 7 habits as an overview. So he breaks down his 7 habits, which are be proactive, begin with the end in mind, put first things first, think win-win, seek to understand, then to be understood, synergize, and then sharpen the saw. And all of these things have been very instrumental into the way that I've developed myself personally in terms of growing as an individual and then also as a business owner. So one of the cool things that I like that he talks about is the power of a paradigm shift. And this comes from a guy called Thomas, I think it's Kuhn, and he wrote a book, The Structure of Scientific Revolutions. And this is the first person who came to the point of understanding or actually just documenting paradigm shifts. And generally what they are is those aha moments, the moments where you kind of make that breakthrough. And this is what Stephen really picks up on in terms of how you make those paradigm shifts with old habits and transferring them into new habits, the habits that are going to take you places. So let's jump forward into some of the notes I've got. So one of the things that he talks about, especially habits, and starting off with the 7 habits and looking inwards, he talks about the way we see the problem is the problem. And the thing about this is that most people, everybody, we see things differently. And I'm just going to double check and see if there's something I can find here just to kind of make this even clearer. Now, just to give you an example of why people see things differently, look at this. Do you see the old haggard woman, or do you see the beautiful woman looking away? Yeah, and everybody will see something different. Yeah. And this is the point. Not only do we see things different visually, hear things different, we interpret, feel, we just have a different filter on life because, we've been brought up differently and we see things for ourselves and whatever that means to us. So there's a lot of truth in that. The way we see the problem is the problem because the problem is not the same problem to everybody else. That's why we get books, we get videos, and we learn from other people because the way they see the problem that we're currently having, they got past it, they were able to solve it. And, I really like that about what Stephen's picked up on. And when he gets into the 7 habits as an overview, we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence then is not an act, but a habit by Aristotle. And then he goes into what a habit is as he starts to, you know, really deep dive into the book. And then he breaks down what habits are. And then basically he goes back to a classic Venn diagram where you've got knowledge, the what to, the why to, you've got skills, the how to, and then you've got desire, the what to, and then in the middle you've got habits. And so all of those collectively form your habits. So next part, he then goes into the 7 habits paradigm. So he has his own unique kind of diagram of how the 7 habits fit together, so you can see that there. And so there's another kind of, I would call this his indoctrination, his type of language, and he uses this thing called production, which is P, and then production capability, PC. And he gives some examples of how he kind of breaks down this part of, you know, how we see things in, you know, us humans and the kind of resources that are around us. And he gives an example, and I'm not going to go into the example on this part, but the point is that what I like about the book is he takes everyday kind of circumstances, life, and just puts it into this kind of formula that you can use in order to gain, you know, better perspective, understanding, and actually use these 7 habits to your advantage. So let's get into what he talks about in terms of the haves and the bees. Now, the haves and the bees are an interesting concept here, and I really like it, and it was highlighted by, you know, me previously. I just want to raise this one with you. One way to determine which circle of our concern is in is to distinguish between the haves and the bees. The circle of concern is filled with the haves. I'll be happy when I have my house paid off. If only I had a boss who wasn't such a dictator. If only I had a more patient husband. If I had more obedient kids. If I had my degree. So they're all the haves. The circle of influence is filled with the bees. So the influence is what you can change, and it all starts here with you. I can be more patient, be wise, be loving. It's the character focus. And so what he then talks about is that anytime we think of a problem as out there, that thought is the problem. And that's why the way you see the problem is the problem, because when you start to own it, and the problem is about your response to the problem and your take on the problem, that's when you can really, you know, flip the paradigm on its head, and you look at it from outside in, rather than outside in, you look from inside out. So really cool. And then another point that I've highlighted here is I can be more resourceful, I can be more diligent, I can be more creative, I can be more cooperative. And that's just to emphasize this kind of B habit. So let's jump forward. Then what I like is identifying your centers. So then Stephen talks about in the book about understanding who you are, how you're centered. And some of these examples are whether you're centered around your spouse, whether you're centered around family, money, work, possessions, centered, pleasure, centered, there's more pleasure, there's friend, enemy, church centered, self-centered. And so some really good examples, and I'll go into one example here of possessions. If you're possession centered, your security is based on your reputation, your social status, or the tangible things you possess, the guidance around this. You make your decisions based on what will protect or increase, better display your possessions. The wisdom around this is you see the world in terms of comparative economic and social relationships. The power around this is you function within the limits of what you can buy or the social prominence you can achieve. And each one has different things, but when you start to break it down, you can really start to understand how you're wired in essence. And it's important because the more you understand you, the better you can, you know, operate and fulfill your desires and all the things that you want to achieve. Then we jump forward into time management. And this is a real cool one. I really love this section because time management is really a misnomer. The challenge is not to manage time, but to manage ourselves. And it's something that I picked up from this book many years ago. And it's not necessarily that people have a time management problem. They have a priority management. That's all it ever is, because your priorities and the importance of your priorities dictate what you put into your daily schedule, whether you agree to it or not, or whether you just let life take you by the hand and pull you down the road. And so, really powerful stuff. And then he breaks time down into how you can manage time. And this is something that I picked up from Stephen when I first read this book about how you plan your weeks. Yeah. And it was really cool because what I started to realize is that it's a weekly planner from Monday to Sunday, and it takes on every hat you wear in your life, whether you're a parent, whether you're a boyfriend, girlfriend, wife, husband, manager, whether you're the cleaner, all the different roles you take on in your life. And he breaks it down in terms of something that you can use to plan your priorities and therefore plan your time. And just to show you how powerful this is, I actually use this planner to this very day with myself and my team, and this is an example of Adam's planner for the week. And so I believe in it, and the reason why I believe in it, because the more you put your priorities down, the more you give them focus and you get those things done. So moving forward, there's some great information on family and really getting to understand, out of your habits, how you can really get more out of, life, whether you're a parent or whether you're just part of a family. And one thing I remember highlighting, and it's really cool actually, is trust is the highest form of human motivation. And I thought, that's really relevant just to see. So we then move into more of the habits and where he breaks down the win-win paradigm, and then the 6 paradigms of human interaction, where you've got win-win, win-lose, lose-win, lose-lose, win, or win-win, or no deal. And for me, it's important just, bearing this in mind. And again, this kind of just re-emphasized, especially when it came to me selling my business and understanding more about win-win. I always believed I could help people, but it was more about helping them to identify that it was a win for them in my perspective. So win-win is a belief in the third alternative. It's not your way or my way. It's a better way, a higher way. So moving forward into the book, getting into the kind of juicy back end, sales. So seek to understand. So in this part, he picks up on, I suppose another concept, but he starts to wrap in more around sales. And I'm just going to see if I can just jump to a section. Yeah, so this is principles on empathic communication. So basically showing that you understand with people, even if you have a different way or another way of doing things. So in sales, the principle is also true in sales. An effective salesperson first seeks to understand the needs, the concerns, the situation of the customer. So the amateur salesman sells products, the professional sells solutions to the needs and problems. It's a totally different approach. The professional learns how to diagnose, how to understand. He also learns how to relate people's needs to his products and services, and he has to have the integrity to say my product or service will not meet that need if it will not. And this is really cool because again, but the point is it's about you. And so the more that you focus on you becoming better, the more you can apply it into different situations. If you are a business owner, you've got to sell, or at least somebody in your business has got to sell. And that's a perfect example to show how you sell with integrity and know that your person owns that type of habit whereby, they're coming from this place of integrity, and, what they're going to sell is an honest reflection of you and your business. So jumping forward again, renewal, part 4. And this is an important part. In habit 7, he talks about sharpen the saw, and this is how you continually renew your skills and beliefs. And I've got a section here, I'm just going to keep that part there. There's actually a section on this, and I'm pointing this out for Adam because he's not filling it in. Sharpen the saw is where you sharpen your own saw. So there should be some stuff there to do with physical sharpening, i.e., exercise training, maybe even diet. There's things to do with mental. So what are you doing? Reading to grow yourself. Spiritual. How much are you in tune to, your spirit, your soul? There's emotional, understanding how you reflect and respond and your emotions around things and people. And then there's financial. What are you doing to sharpen your financial saw? And so for me, it was a really powerful read, really powerful concept by even just taking on that planner, the weekly planner. And it just comes back to continual change, continual improvement. There's a lot of great stuff in this book. 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. What I will say, guys, is that this is definitely one for your Amazon wish list. This one, 9 out of 10. Go get it, have a read. It's Leon Street from Business Owner Elevation, and another episode of the book club here in sunny India. Thank you for watching.